Hello and welcome to the Record Players Podcast, objectively the best opinions in music. So my name's Hattie, I'm joined by Jack and Dennis again, and today we're going to look at reviewing the newest album from Slowthai named Tyron. Yeah, he's very hyped in the scene, I think. So, I mean, why don't we just get straight into it? So, I guess I'll start by sharing my thoughts on this album. So, I think overall I quite enjoyed it. I don't necessarily think I loved it, but I thought it was a good record. I mean, I particularly enjoy the way that he split the album up, and I'd like to get into that. Obviously, there's the first side, which is kind of chock full of bangers, and then there's the kind of second side where it takes a mellow left turn, gets more introspective, and he starts talking about himself more. I thought that was an interesting touch. And there were tracks I liked and disliked on both sides. I didn't necessarily have a big preference towards one, but I mean, I as I said earlier, I'm quite hot and cold on him as a rapper, and it's very dependent on the style that he's using. So often he'll use a very fast, aggressive flow on the harder tracks, and I really like that. But when he does slow it down, sometimes his flow can get a bit awkward, and his accent can actually grate on me, especially with the kind of slower flows. Like his accent is too much, even though, well, I guess it's a different accent to us, but it's ramped up to 11.
I think it's more than an accent. I think it's a dialect.
Yeah, it's. I don't know.
I'm here
it's
for
not,
it though, man. I'm about it.
Yeah, it's not my. I don't know. It does grind on me, but like I said, when he's going into a faster flow, it's not so something that bothers me as much. But I mean, overall, I think it's good. I think the production was really good, and there's quite a variety, but it was also sonically consistent. And he touched on a lot of different topics. So, I enjoyed it. Dennis, what about you? What's your overall opinion?
Gonna go the opposite way and say I didn't enjoy that much. I disagree with you in saying that there was a lot of diversity on the album. I didn't think so. I thought a lot of the beats were pretty much the same. Am I right in thinking that a lot of these were in a minor key?
I'd assume so. There was, yeah.
Because I'm not really up on my training my ear on like harmonic sounds, but there was a whole melancholic vibe throughout every single beat.
But you had pretty much 7 tracks that were like heavy as with influences with trap and all that, and then you had a side that was focused on like slower melodic piano. Even like there was that one track, what was it called, with the acoustic guitar, Push, with Deb Never, that was it's completely stripped back. I don't see how you can say all the beats sound the same.
True. Well, all the beats were kind of dark, melancholic with a minor key, and there was a difference. I think the difference between the first half and the second half of the album are really to do with subject matter. But in terms of beats, I think it's very similar. I mean, on the second half, I got to say, most of the songs that I loved on this album were on the second half, particularly because it did go in a different direction. Push and Feel Away, the song with James Blake.
Yeah.
Those were my favorites just because, they were slightly different. They had some kind of singing and some kind of harmonization and melody to it.
Right.
The other songs have melody to them as well.
So the kind of like, banger tracks, that's where you were getting like lost, would you say? Things like the track with A$AP Rocky or Skepta. Yeah. Okay, you weren't into those.
Here's my biggest pet peeve, and this is really like the summary of this album for me, and what made me like what grated at me more and more is I have the same thoughts. Basically, I think he has a really good flow. I think he's got really good wordplay, but I don't think he's very, very good at focusing his ideas well. And it's the same thoughts that I had when we did the Megan Thee Stallion album, that I can clearly tell he's got the skills, but he's just so focused. So the perfect example of that is on Cancelled. And because on Cancelled, he's got Skepta on it as well, right? So when Skepta's verse comes in, he's actually rhyming about cancel culture and being cancelled. Whereas like on Slowthai's verses, it's just so all over the place. Like one line is like, I shot caffeine like I'm Costa. And I don't understand how this has anything to do with cancel culture. And you also sent over that interview with Fantano with Slowthai, and he in that I didn't watch the whole of it, but I did watch until he was talking about cancel culture, and he was saying that I can relate to cancel culture because people have been trying to cancel me my whole life, telling me that I should stop doing this rap thing and get a real job. And to me, that was like, that's not what cancel culture is about. Cancel culture comes from
someone fucking up or it's saying something offensive, and then people react to it. The public, it's different. I agree.
It's political correctness gone to the extreme. It's this radical leftist taken to the massive extreme, and it seems that he's fundamentally misunderstood what this cancel culture is. And I've got so much more. Like,
it's funny because what you're saying with that track specifically, referring it back to the cancel track, it's almost like he gave Skepta the brief, and Skepta followed the brief better than he did for his own song. That's
literally, and that's what I think about pretty much every song. Like, in the second half, I've got so much more to say. To be honest,
let's I want to get Jack's opinion first, Jack's overall thoughts, and then we can get into the weeds of it. Is that all good?
Yeah, I don't want to turn this into a rant. So
we'll get into it because I've got some talking points. Jack, what's your overall thoughts too?
I think it's generally it's pretty good. Like I enjoyed it. I have some of the same issues as Dennis, where I think that his delivery outclasses his content. But I also I see a lot of potential there. I just wish for a lot of the tracks that the ideas that he's talking about were a bit more fleshed out. Maybe like the characters that he's got in these scenarios see some kind of development throughout it, or like the situation that he's describing develops in such a way that by the end of the song you feel like you've arrived somewhere, you've got to go on a journey with him rather than just like peeking in through a window, which he's really good at, is kind of having a snapshot of something and being like, here's what this is, here's my take on this, here's my ideas about it. But it's let down a bit by not going anywhere. I think the Dennis is a bit harsh on the production. I thought the production was really good.
I really don't understand that opinion because
it's good.
Again, there's variation. It's I find it's consistent, even though it's varied and it's of high quality. I don't know.
There were particular.
I see exactly what you're both saying with the with his topics. He's referencing a lot of things, but it doesn't actually go into a specific or maintain linearity. I see what you're saying, but the production, I don't understand your beef with that.
With particular tracks, there are parts where like I wish they'd either missed out a bit and just not bothered, or had more kind of, because they had a couple of good like classic beat flips where you'll get 70% of the way through the song and then it's on its head. Like,
well, that's what I loved about the cancel song with Skepta, which was one of my favorites, because it started off with like a flute melody, I don't know if you can remember, that was really nasty, and then it went into a really dark, like eerie horror sound, and you're right, it happened on a few tracks, which I enjoyed. And again, that for me, that added to the variety, which makes me want to refute again your production issue, Janice. But there was a lot to unpack here.
I could have done with more of it, though, to be fair. By the end of the album,
a lot of tracks are really short.
Yeah, by the end of the album, I could have picked out a few where I'd have loved to have more variation in either the way it's delivered or the development of the beats. Because a lot of them, a lot of them are fire out the gate,
Yeah.
and then they're either, like they're a bit copy and paste by the end, or they're just not as good as they've come out the gate being by the like 2 minute mark or whatever. Because like you're saying, that's like 3/4 of the way through most of these tracks is about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I was quite surprised by I guess the short length. I mean, the entire album it was like 35, 36 minutes long, but it felt longer. It felt a lot longer. I don't know if you got the same vibe.
Same. I was going through it today, actually, having a listen, and I expected it to take ages while I was working. But I managed to knock off a couple in the time I had, which was surprising.
I think probably part of that maybe comes from the sequencing. Now I know obviously you love to resequence an album as a common theme of our discussion. Yeah. Do you think it was a good approach that he did a side of heavy tracks and a side of soft tracks, or would you have preferred it to be blended? What do you think?
If he's got these 14 tracks, I think what he's done makes complete sense. If he had, like, I would, my personal take would probably be to drop maybe 3 or 4 of the tracks total from
either disc,
both sides combined.
Yeah,
and end up with a 10-track single album.
Yeah,
but I could also, like, with a different artist, if they let more into this kind of duality idea and they had more of a concept album in terms of here's this part of this person's story, or this part of the personality, or this part of the how the world view is currently, and then here's this part, and here's like some kind of progression between the two, then the longer in terms of number of tracks works really well.
But that's what I thought was so interesting, because I saw side A, it was kind of like him being like, this is what you expect of me. I know obviously Jack, because it would be your first listen, you wouldn't have much context of him as like an artist, but side A is kind of like, this is what you expect of me, as this wild motherfucker, making hard-hitting music. And then side B is kind of like, oh, this is the real me when I'm not in the public eye. So I thought that was a really cool idea to have that split. So it didn't necessarily live up to it in some ways. It had its flaws, but I like the idea.
He's got that line, and it's like, what is a rapper without the chains?
On
a
NHS.
Person, probably. Yeah. Or like the real person, probably, or something. Yeah.
Well, the whole theme or the concept of that track, because that track was constantly questioning and comparing two different extremes. I thought that was almost like the cornerstone, or that best represented the album. The duality, and kind of realizing, it's fine to have these differences, or it's fine, for people to have different sides to themselves, or different facets, because. Yeah, if you're, it's almost like kind of like if you haven't experienced sadness, then you don't know what happiness is.
I think that's even more of a perfect analogy for the album as a whole, because that track could have gone so far and it could have been insane, but it gets almost stuck in that loop of doing the what's X without Y, what's Y without Z, what's Z without A, what A without B. Like, it's just over and over.
It could have had some refinement. Again, it's I suppose like the general idea I have of the sequence of the album. It's a good idea that a few changes could have made it great for me.
Let me put this to you, right?
Done.
Akala would have written this song correctly. Akala
what NHS?
Yeah, because Akala is more informed, and I think Slowthai. Slowthai is basically just a pale imitation of Akala.
I used Akala in a lesson recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which song? Shakespeare?
Yeah, he was doing... as for a starter, just a bit of a side note for a bit, but he delivered some lines from sonnets and plays. I think it was actually just plays at the start, and some lines from hip-hop, and people had to guess whether it was a hip-hop line or a line from a Shakespeare play.
Oh, was this like a TED Talk type thing?
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, and he goes on to about all the oral history of the origins of hip-hop and all that sort of stuff, and he does the rap with the 12 or 20 plays or something in. at the end.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that at some point.
So
it's really good.
I guess just to bring it back, I suppose, Dennis, what you're saying is these ideas or these concepts that came across in this album, you think in a more, I don't know, intellectual artist's hands would have served better and produced a great project. It almost like I get the vibe that you're saying that he was too ambitious with what he tried to do, and he doesn't have the toolkit to fully realize that ambition. Is that what you'd say?
Or really like the personality. So
speaking of toolkit, I just want to reference a line from one song that's probably the most British bar I've ever heard on Mazza with A$AP Rocky, where he goes, "We got tools like home base." The most British line of all time. Nice. Anyway,
you're not gonna go with. Oh, where is it? Give me a sec. Yeah, you're not going to go with "Meet me at the back of the bus, beep beep, with my hat and my gloves."
Yeah, it is a I don't know, a reference or like a fist in the air moment for anyone that loves the old Blighty and a bit of UK
anyone
rap.
who jumped on the bus to town straight from secondary school, balls up to the back, hoods up.
Here's the thing, though. Like,
yeah, go on.
What was his last album called? There's Nothing Great About Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of became famous for going
like
against
an anti-establishment. Yeah,
and Brexit and all that. And it sort of it paints him as the type of guy that knows what these issues are and has researched these issues, but he's not. What he actually is, I think, is
I get what you're saying.
He's expressing like a frustration.
Yeah.
That first half of the album, to me, is just like a flailing, frustrated tantrum.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's almost like he's trying to be like the British version of like a Public Enemy, but he's not. Or you get the perception he's not read the books and done the research that someone like Chuck D would have done.
Exactly. You know? So Jack says that he could have gone so much further with NHS.
Yeah.
I think no, he couldn't. This is the best that he could do, and as well, like he's kind of riding on his own sort of steam. You know, like he's sort of become that guy. Yeah, he's become that guy that voices like a kind of frustration, but he doesn't know like what the core of the frustration or how to get into depth with these subjects.
Yeah, I think it does feel good though to have someone that's so like popular and so hyped that is kind of there or is that kind of statesman. I get what you're saying. I agree with you in some ways, but it kind of feels like you need someone, and I can't think of someone else necessarily that's as hyped right now that is kind of doing that. You know, again, I see what you're saying with the it's almost a bit surface level, but who else have we got?
He's just this generation's punk.
He is.
Like, exactly.
Yeah.
But I would say not quite punk, but I would say he's this generation's Elliott Smith, because
who Elliott Smith?
Elliott Smith, you know, he did Speed Trials, and because like I think what he does best is this kind of like this, like he captures this hopelessness, he captures this frustration. Song like, for example, like a song like something like even 45 Smoke, where you know, in the chorus,
intro or the first track.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes, so it might as well be an intro. Yeah, in the chorus, it's like the world is mine, and even like one of my favorite tracks on the album is I Tried, because I think that's the most coherent actually message, because I think that's what he does best. He taps into that sort of like frustration and that sadness, that melancholy.
I guess it's going to resonate with people that feel that kind of I don't know, alienation or frustration with their lives, but it might not necessarily be that those people have the kind of I don't know, knowledge or awareness of the intricacies. So for that fan base, they don't necessarily need that in the music. Again, that's just me making an assumption.
Yeah, that's why I think like he's like a bit of a cult of personality.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like what you were saying, Jack, with punk. You know, you might just need a few with like kind of, I don't know, anti-government punk music. You might just need a few lyrics that reference something vaguely related to politics or whatever, and that's enough. That's enough to like rally the troops. A line that people can like shout at a rally. It doesn't need you to dissect things.
Yeah, what I meant was like he's got the like the us against them without explicitly saying it's us against them all the time.
Yeah.
Like that kind of core fundamental of punk. Because like obviously within the genre you got the whole breadth of people that are incredibly well read and very educated who are anti-establishment, and then the people that are just in the street screaming about how they want their pints to be £1.20 again. Like you get the whole range, and like he will fall somewhere on that scale. But yeah, it's just the kind of the camaraderie and the we're going through the same thing together. We're real people. That's just such a grab for listening to music like this.
Did you guys have a preference? Because I guess if we look at I suppose the two main themes that I pick out is exactly what we said, kind of the anti-establishment parts, or the angry parts, and there was also the more introspective parts where he's talking about his own flaws or depression, drug use. Obviously on the last track, ADHD referencing his disorder or what have you. Like, did you have a preference to either side? I mean, it sounds like Dennis, for you didn't like the surface level anti-establishment stuff. So did you get anything from the introspective lyrics?
I very much prefer the second half. And I think that's sort of like what his bread and butter is. I think that's the direction that he should
go in.
Develop. Yeah. I thought, when he tries to sort of go hype, he's got no direction, basically.
Well, I think what I got from the interview, again, like I said, I haven't listened to the first album in full, but what I got from the interviews, the first album was more sort of side A. On this, it was all like that and all kind of outward projecting as opposed to inward. So I think what from the interview he did with Fantano, this album was an attempt to bring people in and expose the side that people weren't aware of before, but also still have the hype, fuck the world tracks in there.
I can see that, tracks like Vex, where he's talking about people who annoy him, basically.
That resonated with me so deeply. People annoy the fuck out of me.
I'm sure, yeah.
Well, so one thing I wanted to bring up, just to I guess take it away from the themes, just something musically that I found was potentially my biggest annoyance of the album is this album for me was frequently let down by mediocre repetitive hooks. I quite enjoyed a lot of the verses, the flows, a lot of the features, but so many of the hooks were just so fucking boring, and especially when you've got hype tracks and a lot of hooks that they were so unenergetic. So for instance, Dead, for example, and then Play With Fire, even Feel Away I didn't really like, ADHD, the last track, all of them I was kind of like the chorus where you're supposed to be brought up and it's supposed to be the peak of the song, it was crushing it.
It's
don't know if you guys got the same thing.
It's strange that you've called out those tracks, but you said earlier that you loved Cancelled, because I had exactly the same thing with Cancelled, where
Skepta did the hook on that. Cancelled,
it's dead. Like,
same, yeah.
It's so boring and monotone and repetitive. He's done this on a few tracks recently. Like
the hook on Cancelled is basically just another verse.
Yeah, but it's dead. It's boring. There's no flow. It's just the same thing over again, like week.
It sounds like another day in the office for Skepta.
Yeah.
Very cookie cutter.
I really enjoyed that track.
I loved the track. The beat is fire. The beat switch is sick. The Japanese string instrument, bit of Konnichiwa thrown in there. Yeah, literally that one bit. That one bit that, unfortunately, like I said, is the bit that repeats. Dragged it all down.
It just felt like for a lot of the hooks, it kind of felt like an afterthought. He'd focused on the verse and he selected, worked with I know he works with a few producers on a lot, that they're like his boys or whatever. He'd worked on getting the best beats to fit. But the hooks were the afterthought for me on the majority of the tracks almost, which was a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
because that's what's, say, even if you don't resonate with the lyrical content, that's what's going to keep you coming back. If you've got a good beat and a hook that can get you hype or whatever, it just wasn't there, which would probably ruin my ability to replay this and enjoy this much. That's probably my biggest beef.
Yeah, I mean, Play With Fire's got a bit of a hook. Cancelled that. Now You're Dripping Blood. I wasn't such a fan of that. It got kind of old at some point. Play With Fire. It's that's a bit annoying. It's got that loop, hasn't it? Play with fire, fire. Play with fire.
That's what I mean. So many of them are just 1 or 2 lines times 4. It's it kind of felt like very, very basic. But
yeah,
cool. I mean, maybe we should get into some top and bottom tracks, unless you guys have any other general thoughts or opinions that you wanted to get out there.
No, I'm good.
Okay, well let's go to best tracks first. So see if we got like a top 3 and why. Dennis, I'll throw it at you.
Sure. It was really hard for me. It was hard for me to pick top tracks because I was so skewed by this idea that he's got no direction. And it kind of annoyed me because I'd be listening to a song like Dead or something. I'd be like, what's this got to do with anything? Like, to Play With Fire, like, what's this got to do with anything? And I just end up getting like pissed off. Like, why did you write these lyrics?
I just imagine you just listen to the album, you go back and you find the Vex instrumental and just write your own verse.
Yeah. Get the remix album featuring Dennis.
The Vex remix. Yeah, listen out for that one. No, I'm not going to do that, but because I got basically no talent.
Well, I mean, according to you, that might put you on par, innit?
Yeah.
Start talking some shit on Twitter.
I will say from us doing the podcast, you have the talent to dress down the artists we're reviewing in an eloquent way consistently. So.
All right. So you're saying, well, I'm becoming the Simon Cowell.
You're the roast master general of the record players. I think.
I'll take that. I'll try and develop my ability to take people apart.
Okay.
So top 3. It was hard for me to pick, but there are some good tracks that I enjoyed. Like I said, the second half of the album I enjoyed quite a bit. Ghost Pencil. It's I tried the track. I really like that. Like I said, I like his introspection. I think he does that best.
Sounded like a Tyler beat, that track, I thought. Almost like a kind of throwback, something you'd hear on Eagle. Don't know if you got this.
Yeah, with the vocal on top of it, the singing vocal on top of it.
Yeah, it was just like a kind of classic vintage sounding instrumental. I don't know, compared to a lot of the more modern production that surrounded it.
I prefer that to the sort of more modern ones because I think that's why I thought a lot of the tracks sounded the same, because they weren't just electronically produced beats. You just get a drum machine, you have a bit of distorted bass or a distorted kick drum, and then on top of that you just have some minor chords, and then boom, done. Yeah, that's why I think like so many of the songs sounded so alike to me. So yeah, those two things were working in my brain. Yeah, as I was trying to pick a top 5, there was he's got no direction, and all the beats are basically cookie cutter.
Okay, so that track standed out specifically instrumentally, you'd say,
and the subject matter.
Okay.
Again, it kind of goes back to when we did our Tyler review, and I was like, oh, I like when Tyler like spills his heart out and he gets a bit introspective. Same here. I want to sort of know how you feel and your experience of life, and I think on something like I Tried, that's him giving his, and I think he has probably had a very hard life. I mean, he had a brother who had muscular dystrophy and ended up unfortunately losing his brother. So he grew up without a dad, with a single mom. So he's had a hard life, and I think that's why this hopelessness and this melancholy and this frustration is so good at expressing that. Because like that's sort of like part of him and his history.
Right. So you just want more of that, and you want it focused more, which that track did.
I think that's what he does best. I don't want more of it, but I think that's what he does best.
Okay.
And it's kind of, I think those are the times when he's sort of most focused. Like I said, it's kind of like Megan Thee Stallion. He's got the skills. He's got such a good flow. But and his wordplay is great. But it's just on some tracks, it's like you've got a title, and the title almost doesn't relate anything to what the actual lyrics are about.
He would benefit hugely from having a writing partner, a consistent writing partner who doesn't want to be a rapper, but is willing to sketch out ideas and is a sounding board for him to spit stuff to and then get some feedback immediately back. Yeah, he would benefit so much from a consistency like that.
We have to kind of remove the stigma surrounding ghostwriters or collaborative lyricists in hip hop to serve the song. I know, but it's a shameful thing. You know, think Drake. You know, that's a mark on his legacy for life and anyone else. So it's not a thing people like to own up to.
Yeah, people who say that they never use them are lying. People that like don't count having someone bouncing ideas off, like whatever, that's fine. If that like removes the stigma.
Yeah.
But like everybody gets help with their stuff.
Yeah.
Every rock band gets it. Like even just the producer, like every rock band gets help with how their riffs sound or how to order tracks or like where to put like different solo tones in the mix.
It doesn't matter in other genres. It's just a hip hop thing where it's hard. I guess it's because it's a genre that's so focused on like the individual's experience. But then you look like Dr. Dre's crafted some of the best hip hop songs of all time, and he never writes his shit. So you know,
and you
could argue Serving the Song is the best because we've had so many classics. So you know, is anyone gonna say, fuck Dr. Dre for giving me all these great records because he doesn't write his songs?
I find that so weird as well, because like such a core element of the origin of hip hop is taking someone else's music, removing
sampling it,
removing their vocals and just having the break, and then being like, this is mine now. It's that 4-panel meme, you know, from the internet, where like someone hands something and they're like, I made this, and the person holding is like, I made this. This is mine. That's like. It's based on, it's not like stealing, but it's based on repurposing. So what's the problem with having multiple influences on one track?
I'm with you on that. Like serve the song, make the song great, no matter what it takes.
We could probably pivot this into a topic discussion in the future, but the last thing I'll say about it is that's probably happening naturally because of the rise of crews. Like what's
NWA.
No. I was thinking of the JID, Earth Gang. They have a little crew.
Oh, Dreamville.
Dreamville, that's it. You got Dreamville.
That's J. Cole's label.
The little crew.
The little crew, yeah.
That's
like
that's
a dad talking.
No, but that's different because that's more like a label that's like quite tightly knit. You could look at TDE as the same thing, or you could look at good music with Kanye. Yeah. Which I like. I like that. That's like it's like a label, but you collaborate with each other all the time. Yeah. I think that's and you check ideas. So that's a good way to do it. You know, you're not hiring someone that's a good lyricist. These are your mates or whatever. And you bounce ideas. Yeah. ASAP Mob. Yeah, exactly.
I also think like that's gonna have been something that's always happened, because if you're like if you're in a position to be in a studio that other artists you respect are in, you're probably in the position to like be hanging out and having their opinions on stuff. And like there's so many videos of you know, just Pharrell being in people's studios, even like when he's done a track but he's there listening to the whole thing and like he's doing that like magic, do it
like Salt Bass, sprinkle that magic. Pharrell's in your studio, you're coming out with a hit. He doesn't come in unless he knows that your shit's selling 1 million.
He just walks up and down the corridor till he hears one beat he likes, and he's like, "That's the one." Pops in the door.
Right. Let me. I try to ground it back. Okay, Dennis, back to your top tracks. And any others that stand out?
again, Feel Away I liked because of the same sort of reason. I gravitate towards like melancholic songs naturally.
Okay.
And yeah, this had some feels. And as well with James Blake actually singing in it, a bit of a change to the rest of the album.
Okay.
Didn't you just hate on this album for being too melancholic though? And then you're like, I gravitate towards that naturally.
I wasn't.
He's done ya. He's absolutely done ya.
I wasn't hating on it for being melancholic. I was saying that a lot of the beats are the same. Yeah, very, very, very samey. I don't mind.
Again, I refute that opinion, but that's your opinion. Okay.
You know what? I would probably agree with you that if you were to look deeply in it, there are differences, sort of beat to beat. There are little things that you can pick out, but so what I heard, I guess the idea was planted in my head anyway. And then once the idea was planted in my head, I kept hearing the same things over and over. Like it's a beat to a set of minor chords, and then some kind of distorted bass kick or bass line on top of that.
Okay.
It's almost as if like you could take any sort of verse, put it in any other beat, and it didn't matter at all. It's like the beat was an afterthought.
Okay.
Which is like, okay, it's kind of like compare it to the Bra remix that you sent, the JID Bra remix, right? The way that he flows on that, like it's almost like he wrote the lyrics for that specific beat.
Yeah,
and
his flow is another facet of the beat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's a bad comparison, because I would argue that JID is like literally like a master when it comes to rapping. So it's a bit of an
it's a different tier. Yeah, of lyricism or
flow.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Flow specifically.
Like I would say, like JID on that is like a handmade. It's like it's handmade. It's made for that specific beat, and it cannot fit on anything else. If he had to go on anything else, he'd have to make it from scratch.
Okay. Jack, what about you? What tracks were your favourites, if any?
Yeah, I think I struggled to pick out like clear winners, not as much as Dennis, but I think like with a lot of them I'd like almost all of it, and then there'd be a turn off. Like 45 Smoke I really liked from the beginning. Like it's got that kind of SMG delivery, which I really like for rappers, which is actually kind of weird. Like it's something JID does a lot, where he has a like, and you're like, he's just coming at you with shit, and you just got to try and hand on. But then at the end, it like flips to this proper baby voice.
He switches his flow completely. Right, I thought it was a feature. I thought it was an uncredited feature, because he's completely different.
And it just killed it off for me. Like,
so you hated it. You hated that part.
Yeah, and then, like there's loads of moments on this album like that, which is why I think that like he's clearly got a vision, and like maybe not for like the concept of the whole album, but he's got a vision when he's working on a song, and he's like,
there's a plan. This is going to go here. This is what I want to do.
And it could. This is where I think having that sounding board, somebody who's maybe a bit more experienced, or like a bit more.
It's like a hands-on producer, right? Like with a band who would you've got these riffs, let's make a song.
Yeah, to just come in and be like, okay, well, like, in order to keep what you've got true, but also make it a success, you need to do this. So, like, go do that, come back, we'll have another listen.
I get you.
That'd be huge for him. I went through, it was actually a bit of a struggle. I took a leaf out of Dennis's book. One of my listens, I had Genius up, and I've picked a favourite lyric for each song. But I think it says stuff where some of the ones I was struggling to pull a favourite lyric from.
So you had a bar for every track on the album.
Yeah.
That you picked. Okay.
Because I was like, I just wanted to.
Are there any standouts for your favourite songs or?
Yeah.
To be fair,
Yeah.
45 Smoke has some pretty fire lines in it. Rise and shine, let's get it, bumper clock dickhead, bumper clock dickhead. That little...
Yeah, it started off with madness. That was sick, yeah. No.
I thought I was getting mugged and shit. Fucking hell.
Money to me like shit for a fly, so I'll stay getting pee because the world is mine as well. Fantastic line. Also, there's loads of shit on this album. There's loads of lines on this album that make me think of like he does some Nas stuff. He does another reference to God forgive me if I get a pull my nine line from Skepta, which I know he does from Freestyle as well. He's got some like Soldier Boy stuff that he references. Like, there's loads of like stuff in here to pull out.
Callbacks to other artists.
I think
on the singles as well, in the videos, there's a reference to like movies and stuff.
Yeah, there's a. Which one is it? Is it cancelled? I think he's got the American Psycho reference in the video, which is pretty sick.
Yeah,
he's Patrick Bateman.
Yeah.
It's a cool.
And Skepta doing the face peel.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of my favorite films, so I was pretty hyped to watch that video with that.
Yeah, I thought you'd like it.
I reckon I'll give you my 3 favorite tracks rapid fire because I know I've drawn this out.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
No, I drew it out for ages. Go for
it. before I do that, I need to mention. So Vex, has the line, "Sket's getting me stressed right now. Calm down, darling. Your pum pum's loose." Right. Was what we were talking about this before we went live. If we were doing reaction videos, that would have been the line where you pause it and you give the like.
Yeah.
That goes in your thumbnail. That
shit would bang in the playground.
Yeah, no, that's mate, too much. Yeah. But yeah, I liked what. I know it was super short, but I don't feel bad putting it for my favorite.
Piano was hard
because
that was a hard track.
I would have loved to see it develop into a full track, but even
it was way too short. It was less than a minute.
Yeah, even just being, I think it's 48 seconds. Even just being that long, it's got about as much storytelling as any other track on the album lyrically. So like to me, it's just one of his tracks without the stuff that he's filled it with around it, which I like. I'm fine with. And also, Tracky and socks when I walk in the shop is just it's too much of a relatable line to not be about. So I had like a couple more that I liked from that side, but that side of the album was a bit more inconsistent from me.
I was going to say it's interesting because Dennis, you leaned on the side B, but from what you've said, Jack, you're going for side A, at least for like bars that stand out or whatever. So sounds like there were different parts. You both had different parts of the album that you were focused on.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, the final 2 of my top 3 come from the other side. So I've got Push, which just like has a nice flip of styles from the previous half of the thing, half of the album, and I think that it's really nice to have that like
a complete genre shift, wasn't it?
With really down to earth delivery, like pairs up with acoustic instruments, just really works really, really well. And on the verse 2, they've got they delay the drums coming in until the snare on the 3rd beat, which is
I love that. Yeah,
something I do in every single beat I've ever made in my entire life. You have it delayed. You either have the anacrusis, where the bar before the drop happens, you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, or you have half a bar in, it starts, but as if it started. Correctly.
Whenever the beat's drawn back or it's taken out and dropped back in, fucking around with that is always you give that magic. I agree.
And then I was a bit torn between Terms and ADHD for my last one. I think like they're fairly similar. They're a bit like like Dennis is saying, they're just exploring the kind of the melancholic aspect and like the kind of introspective more than anything else. They're quite samey, so it was quite difficult to choose between them, but I thought they were both really good. Although I have to say Terms has Denzel Curry as a feature.
Didn't hear him.
Dude's got 2 lines in the refrain. Like
Terms
dead. Could have killed it. I feel like their styles together, and especially on a beat like that where it's like a bit understated but it's still got power. That could have been a killer track. That could have been the best by far.
They've done another collaboration. I can't remember the track name, but you guys need to hear it. It's fucking hard. The beat is grimy as fuck, and they both go in. So for me, this Terms wasn't like one of my worst tracks, but it was so disappointing. I mean, with the feature Dominic Fike, I'm not familiar with him, but he does the hook right, and he sounds a lot like Black. He sounds like a lot like Black, and I've mentioned before, I'm not a fan of Black, so I was on that. But yeah, when I finished the track, I was like, "Where's Denzel?" And then I played it again, where's Denzel? And I literally have to look at Genius and be like, what? Yeah. So that was a big disappointment, being a big Denzel fan. But
there's another one where they overused the chorus as well. Like, a lot of these I could have... And it especially hit home here, because you're like 3/4 of the way through the album at this point, and I'm looking for that Denzel feature, and I'm like, not only do I not have enough verses, but I don't have a verse from a featured rapper.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a few features I thought were underutilized. Some good ones, but yeah. Okay. You both done with your you done with your list? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll just go through mine quick. So I, contrary to at least I know Dennis, maybe Jack as well, I fucked with Cancelled. That was potentially my favorite track on the whole album. I thought, beat the Eastern first bit with the flute. That shit just ticks all my boxes, and then having the beat switch into like the horror, the grimy dark horror beat in the second half. I fucked with it. Skepta killed it. One of my favorite kind of Slowthai flows. So I couldn't fault this track personally. My second favorite was I Tried. So same. I think you mentioned you really like that one, Dennis. Again, I thought that stood out, I guess for similar reasons to you, a very soulful, kind of slow tempo, vintage sounding beat. Again, I got that. I got a vibe of something that you could have heard on Eagle by Tyler, or even Flower Boy with the production. So I really liked that. And Slowthai had a couple of cool punchlines in that. But I think that was another, that was quite a short one. It was about 2 minutes. So I was left wanting more on the tracks that I really liked, that included. And then third, I don't know, maybe NHS. It did have the flaws that we discussed, but the general concept or idea I liked. And I did think it was probably the most important track of the album. If you could take one that would kind of represent what the album tried to convey, it was that. So it's kind of, I don't know. There are a few tracks that could have gone in that third place, but I think that one would have to be my pick.
NHS reminded me of Chance the Rapper with that like the piano sort of vibey
like acid rap.
And then he's got that like stone skimmers, daydreamers, nitpickers, misleaders, even though they knew that's just like, it was literally just like Chance's flow, where he's like similar to JID but like slower. Where he's got that like da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da ba 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 da, and it's like it's the same.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection initially,
but it's like a little switch at the end where you got ba ba da ba ba da ba ba da ba ba da. Yeah, it's got that same
like a ping pong flow.
Yeah.
But I mean a mix. I mean, I think just to kind of cap off, I found like I didn't necessarily gravitate towards one side of the album over the other. There were tracks I really liked and disliked on both, I think in equal measures. But let's go through some of our top 3 most hated tracks or top hated tracks, however many, and then we'll cap it off with our review or our overall score. So again, throwing it back to you, Dennis. I'm sure you have many tracks that grinded your gears. What was the worst?
Not exactly. To be honest, I didn't think it was a bad album. I just thought there's little things that sort of niggled at me. But overall, the beats were actually pretty good, like enjoyable. The production was to a high standard, and the wordplay and the flow were great. Like Jack, I think Jack sort of hit the nail on the head. Like you could literally go through the entire album and pick out like the odd line here and there, which is just like so great. So there's not much that I actually hated. I didn't actually make a list of things that I hated, but if I was to pick tracks that I didn't really like, I think I'm going to have to go with Cancelled, because Skepta comes in and he's so clear, right? his message is so clear and it sort of fits
Yeah.
in with the title of the track, and it makes Slowthai look so bad because he's just.
But isn't his part on the beat good enough to like bring that track at least into mid tier? I would say. Surely, even if Slowthai doesn't necessarily deliver, the other elements are good enough. You know, that's just my opinion. But
I would say it's almost the opposite with Skepta coming in, because like his flow on this track is pretty boring, and then Slowthai is more erratic and more like rhythmically interesting to listen to. But then like you've got the flip of that with the actual like lyrical content.
Yeah, no, from that point of view, I can see that because it's interesting. It's interesting in terms of his structure rather than Skepta's structure, which I guess with the verse, the chorus. The chorus is just so bad. Like we were saying, Jackie, it was just so sort of samey and a bit annoying. But I liked Skepta's verse on this actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more siding with your original point than Jack's in terms of that Skepta was more focused in terms of, you know, the approach to the track, and that added to it. I think also because his part was originally over the first beat, which with the kind of with the flute and stuff, which I fucked with so much, that also added to my enjoyment. And maybe I viewed him in such a good light for his part because the beat was so sick on that bit. But
and lastly, the other track I think I should mention that I didn't really like, and again, against one of your favorites, was NHS, because again, I thought it was confused, and I think right now, you know, after what we've all lived through, you can't release a song called NHS and not have it quite clear what the message is.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
the title's odd.
I was expecting a proper dressing down literary epic. Like, do you know the song "What If Punk Never Happened" by the King Blues? No, it's a fantastic song. It's literally like it's just it's kind of a rappy vocal style, and it's quite generic backing behind it, but it's definitely worth listening to just for the story that it tells over the course of it. And I was like, I had elements of this reminding me of it at the beginning, but I was expecting like, you know, just news article headlines basically from the last like year and a half organized into some kind of coherent timeline rap, and that's got none of it.
Yeah, probably should have had a different title.
Definitely. I mean, there were a few lines that sort of referred to the NHS a little bit. Let me try.
He ad-libs it as like a.
Yeah, there was a line that had something to do with clapping, and it referenced the NHS.
Jack the Lad only happy when they clap. NHS.
Yeah. I think that's the one, and it's like what is that supposed to mean? It's like what I'm really wary of is people having this cult of personality around him, and then people projecting whatever meaning they want onto his lyrics, and it's like, okay, fine, that can happen, but what did you actually mean?
Maybe that's his intention, for better or worse.
Yeah, in which case you're just trolling.
Okay, so he reminds me of a dude called Luna C, who was a battle rapper in Don't Flop many years ago, and just has.
He's like the biggest dude, wasn't he?
He has incredible fucking put downs. Like I would be scared to just have a normal conversation with him in case he decided to slew me. But I was just looking him up because I was like, I wonder what he's doing now, and like, you know, is he still rapping? Because he moved from battle rapping into actually releasing tracks, and like he didn't have that consistent flow on the tracks like he did with the battle rap style. So I was like, that's a bit of a good comparison we could have there. And he literally tweeted one day ago, "Slowthai is great." And literally yesterday tweeted how much he loves Slowthai. So they
I can remember when I used to watch those, and you're right, just on the Lunar Sea thing, he had like the most funny punchlines, you know, had the most like epic memorable videos in fucking, you know, Don't Flop. But then when I did listen to his actual music, I was like, what the fuck is this? This is completely. It didn't even seem like the same person. Like the wittiness that he put into the battle rap, it's almost like, for me, I got the perception is like, oh, you're made for this style, but you can't necessarily make a song that I'd want to jam to. Again, that was just my perception.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jack, any standout tracks for you negatively?
I kind of want to, like, I loved Feel Away the first time around. The more I listened to it, the more annoyed I was that it was there. But I think it's just because, rather than it being a bad song, I think it just epitomizes what I didn't like about this album, where I get and I appreciate the Tyler approach of, like, I can rap, but I'm a musician and I'm making music. Here's all the shit I can do, and, like, don't just pigeonhole me. But I feel like, and in the interview, Slowthai's got a similar kind of thing where he's like saying, this album won't sound like the last one, my next one won't sound like this one, and I get that as well. I feel like he could have honed in his sound for this album more, because this song kind of, to me, epitomizes where he's got a good song, but it's a good song because his feature happened to come in and gel really well with the beat and make, like,
James Blake,
yeah,
on that track,
and have like, a nice vocal that fit well and all this sort of stuff. But if he's got that, if he was a more experienced artist, I feel like having that feature come in with something that's really good, that doesn't make the song. If you're a sick artist, having that feature that comes in and makes
shouldn't have to rely on it.
That's your platform to stand on and up your game, so that you're still the focus of the track. Do you know what I mean?
Good point.
Like James Blake's no Andre 3000. Do you know what I mean? He's not going around stealing tracks from people with features. So, like, I feel like there's the room above him to still progress your own game.
Yeah.
Is it like the Tyler song that he did with Kanye, where Kanye did a verse, sent it back to Tyler. Tyler did his verse.
Oh, Smuckers.
Sent it back to
and he went and did his again.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, like, literally, like, you should have the. I don't think he doesn't have integrity, but to me, it's like an honor integrity thing where, like, if I'm collaborating with somebody and they send me something that I've done this loads of times with Haddy, when Haddy sent me guitar shit that I think's just, like, miles better than whatever I've done up to that point in the project, I'll go back and rework what I've done before, because I don't want my bits to stand out to a listener as a bit like the low points. I want to make sure, in my mind, I'm hitting that consistency that whoever I'm collaborating with is doing as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's that. I guess in the space of, like, rap and features, that's another, I guess, hot topic or sensitive topic. I kind of think there's something a bit, I don't know, it kind of does feel a bit like a betrayal if you send someone a track with a verse and then they do a feature that kills you and then you redo yours. I don't know, to me that seems a bit shady, but
what you
again,
mean? It's shady for the original artist
to redo their verse.
So you could be annoyed as the feature.
Yes, as the feature in that hypothetical, I would view that as a bit annoying or a bit like snakish.
That's if like we were. Well, I'm not going to say us. That's a weird way of approaching it. But if you have JID and Earth Gang, and they're making a song together, they're gonna produce verses and tell each other how they're doing and give each other the feedback constantly. But I feel like it's just a part of being a part, to have that, like, it has to come in those blocks of, like, here's what I've done so far, here's my return, here's what we've turned it into.
Sure. But to me, there's a difference. There's a difference. So there's a difference between like collaborating and just someone sending a feature. So I guess these days a lot of, like, stuff, especially now with, like, the pandemic, is just going to be like, I'll just email you a stem, import it, and there's the track. That's different to, you were in the studio with me and we helped write each other's shit, and to me that's a whole different scenario.
I get what you're saying. I think this goes back to the discussion about one-man bands or collaborative stuff, where you'd prefer to have the final say. I think this is part of, like, to me, as the feature, artist, you're playing second to whoever is the main artist on the track. So you give them your stuff, and that's their public domain. They can do what they want with that. They can build what they want around it. You've done your bit.
Yeah, I get you. You're like a worker for them.
Yeah,
essentially on their platform. Yeah, I get you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll just rattle off some tracks that I didn't like, and then we can wrap it up with our overall review. So, pretty much the tracks that stood out for me that I wasn't a fan of, it came back to what I said before with just weak choruses. So, I didn't necessarily dislike all the elements, but Dead, Play with Fire. I wasn't actually a fan of Feel Away, like you said, but especially with the first two, Dead and Play with Fire, just horrible hooks that brought the track down. There wasn't anything across the entire album I was like, what the fuck is this? This is like horrendous and stands out as being like hands down the worst. But yeah, whenever the hooks were just repetitive and unenergetic, it lost my attention. Cool. Let's wrap it up. Let's get the our individual ratings and try to agree on a consensus.
All right.
So yeah, whenever you're ready. So I guess what I'll do for new listeners, I will quickly explain our system. So we have a 6-tier system. So starting from the best, top tier is Mind Blown. So this is like a classic album that we love and can't really find any flaws with. Second tier would be Fire emoji. So this is a great album that has room for a bit more, but you're going to be listening to it constantly. Third tier is Pat on the Back. So it's a decent project. I've got to give you some props, but there's room for improvement. Fourth tier is Scratch CD. So it's this is the part where you're not really into it. You could listen to it, you could tolerate it, but you're not going to go back to it. The fifth tier is Participation Ribbon. So you've made an album. Congratulations. You're not going to want to listen to it again by any measure, but it's not horrendous. Maybe there's a track or two that you might like. And then final tier is Trash. So this is something that's unredeemable. You hate it. You never want to listen to it again. So with that in mind, Dennis, please explain why this is a trash album for you. I'm just fucking with you.
Like I said, I enjoyed like the majority of the songs, and I think he's got a great flow. He has good wordplay, but I'll put this album on Pat on the Back because
not expecting that.
I was going to put it on Scratch CD. Like on the first listen, I was like, I'm going to put this on Scratch CD. But I listened to it a bit more, and that second half of the album really hooked me. And that I had to bring the album up just because of how good that second half of the album was, and the fact that, like Jack said, there's so much potential. There's so much potential there in this album, and in Slowthai in general. So I'll put it as Pat on the Back and hope that in his later projects, he'll develop further as an artist.
It had the Gorillaz effect.
Okay.
You hated it, then you hear those last 5 tracks and you're like, oh shit.
The back end.
Maybe I misjudged it.
For real.
All right, Jack, what about you?
I mean, I'm beginning to side with you, Haddy, in that we've been too generous to some tracks in the Back Pat, but I feel like it has to go in Back Pat because it's not. Maybe it's because it's more British or something like that, but I feel like it does stand a little bit above Megan Thee Stallion, and for me, it's a lot above Biceps. So I feel like, it's either the top of Scratch CD or the bottom of Back Pat for me. But it feels a little harsh to put it in Scratched.
Well, I guess the key kind of definition with where it would go would be like, did you enjoy it more than you didn't, or whatever? Like I said, if it was enjoyment, and you think you could, go back to a decent amount of tracks, then it deserves that pat.
I think I did enjoy it, but I don't think I'll go back to it.
Okay.
At least not as an album.
Yeah.
I might go back to a handful of tracks.
Mm.
Yeah, same here. And if we were to compare it to Megan Thee Stallion, I would say the one difference between this and Megan Thee Stallion is you actually got a sense in some of these tracks that he was being, Whereas with the Megan Thee Stallion, I didn't get that as much.
I thought you were saying it the other way, and I was about to be like, but the only person that you understood at the end of the Megan Thee Stallion was that she was a boss bitch and that
she a bad bitch.
That was every track.
Okay, so you're saying with that alone, it'll be backpack.
It's a
low backpack.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say low. I think it's a solid backpack for me.
No, I meant Jack. Sorry.
Ah, right.
Yeah, like I don't think I'm going to push it up because I think this is worse than the other backpack albums. I know you weren't a Bungle fan, or like an Easter Bunny fan, but yeah, I'd rather listen to those. I think that as a whole album than listen to this as a whole album again.
Okay, what? So you're saying Scratch CD then?
No, I'll say backpack, but like it's if we ever tier our tiers, it's in the trash tier of backpack.
I get you. Yeah, well, I guess that's the thing with the tiers. They're broader than a score system, right? So it allows a bit more room. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna personally not do anything crazy and join you two in saying that it's a backpack. Like I said, I agree with the majority of points you've had. Like there's some good stuff here, songs that I enjoyed, definite room for improvement. I think you both have raised good points in terms of I wish the ideas were refined more. I really fuck with the instrumentals. When his flow's on point, it's good. So I overall enjoyed it, but it was nothing amazing. So it's going to be backpack for me.
We've got room for 4 more backpacks, and then we're going to have to either rethink our ranking system or start a new season and clear the board.
Yeah, we can do a new season. We could have a rolling thing where like old albums fade.
Over 50% of our albums are currently backpats, and I don't considering that we're kind of curating what we listen to anyway by not picking stuff that we think is trash. I feel like we're gonna have that as a consistent theme.
Sounds like it's following the bell curve.
I mean,
you're gonna have most things that are average.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the definition of average, isn't it?
More artists that I'm super hyped about need to drop music. Yeah,
true.
True. Like I said, I'm waiting for that 5-year drought or whatever for a Kendrick album. I'll be like, all right, boys, let's get ready for the 4-hour review.
Way overdue.
All right. Well, yeah. So it's interesting. We got a consensus on that one. So yeah, I mean that's the review. I think next week we're going to do something a bit different. So should we keep it as a surprise or?
Yeah, I think keep it as a surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. No review, no tier list. Something a bit new. So stay tuned for that.
Drop a subscribe. Hit the bell so you don't miss the notification.
Like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, TRP_pod. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, all of that.
Comment below why you think Slowthai should be the next Prime Minister.
I can't follow that up. Let's leave it at that. All right. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.